Hello, and welcome to the Future Proof Podcast. This is our monthly podcast where we chat about stuff we've been working on and anything cool we're planning. I'm Melissa Avery Weir.
And I'm Gregory Avery Weir.
And we've got some fun stuff this month. First up is that we have started our Future Proof Games newsletter. It's going to be kind of a broad purpose newsletter.
Yeah, one of the things that we took away from that community survey that we did is that people are down for getting our news via email.
Yeah.
And so we previously had an Exploit 0 Day newsletter, which is going to kind of get sunsetted in order to have this one happen, which means if you're subscribed to the EZD newsletter, you should go and sign up for the Future Proof newsletter because that's how you're going to get Exploit 0 Day news starting soon.
Right. And so signups for that are on futureproofgames.com. Check the banner at the top, or there'll be links in our show notes or blog posts, all sorts of things.
Yeah, and our next 1 to 3 EZD newsletters will have links as well.
Yep. So that's actually really exciting, because I have at times felt a little guilty about including broader FPG news in the EZD newsletter.
Yeah, it's relevant, but you don't want
right.
You don't want a newsletter, an EZD newsletter that is entirely non-Exploit 0 Day news.
Right. And so we have a bunch of ideas for things we want to put in there. Maybe, custom articles just for the newsletter, like blog post equivalent kind of stuff. Links to cool things we've seen on the internet, cat pictures. Of course, dev news.
Yeah, we're not planning it to be like, here's our link collection.
No.
But there might be a little sidebar that's like, here's a cool thing from time to time. So
that's really fun. That's going to be monthly. Definitely sign up for that, especially if you're not too inclined to be on Twitter, perhaps, or not on Twitter very often, or do not tend to get news on Twitter because it's such a fast-moving platform. So speaking of Twitter and the joys of that platform, Greg did a thing.
Yeah, so I mean, so one of the things that we've been trying to do is make our we have enough people that are interested in following us on Twitter and getting news on Twitter that we want to make that like a worthwhile experience for people to have. Like, I think both of us have our concerns about Twitter. I think Lissa personally is off Twitter entirely as a human.
It's a problematic platform.
Sure. But due to both, the necessities of operating under capitalism and due to where people are seeking out this sort of news, we have to participate in it. Well, we choose to participate in it. Mm-hmm. And we don't want our feed to just be, hey, here's a sale, here's a new release, here's a blog post.
Yeah.
We want to be a little more involved, yes, and also not have it feel like this is the brand announcement feed. Yeah. It totally is.
Sure.
But we're two people. Yeah. We're two human beings that are running a company. Yeah. And so so part of this was we've been quote retweeting things more and giving more of our opinions on things. And we had a tweet go viral.
Good grief.
Yeah. So this is kind of as expected. We discussed as we were doing this ramp up that this is somewhat of a random dice roll when you're doing this sort of social media. You put out stuff that you think is pretty good, and once in a while one of those things, happens to come at the right time with the right wording and seen by the right people to sort of expand and blow up. We weren't expecting our first big one of this batch to be quite so big. We had something like 2.5 million impressions.
Yeah, it was...
Which is the number of times people saw it on their feed.
Yeah, and it was over 40,000 likes, and it was wild.
Yeah. It was a cool thing. The thing that we retweeted was cool. There's this performance art project where a person exploited sort of the inherent way that Google Maps tracks traffic by getting a bunch of phones logged into Google Maps essentially and dragging it down the street in a red wagon and dragging a virtual fictional traffic jam along with them. And of course the art project was done outside of a Google headquarters and
in Germany.
It was pretty cool. And so The retweet was, hey, this is cyberpunk. Like, this is exploiting the way that the virtual and meat space interact and feed off of each other and affect each other. And this is an example of the sort of way that someone who understands systems can exploit tools that are used by the powerful for other means.
Which I will say is not a hot take.
No, I mean, that's just...
It's a good take, but it's not a hot take, and yet.
Well, so the responses were generally totally things that I would expect and agree. Like, you know, it was like, hey, this is cool. And like, yeah, this is cyberpunk. Like, a whole lot of likes. The overwhelming majority of response was like, yeah, cool. But as you get large responses to things, this is something I totally experienced in like the comments to my Flash games that reached millions of people. Those artifacts of smallness get larger, and you get a lot of grumpy people, and especially people who see something trending and are grumpy that it is trending and want to object, but don't necessarily do a close enough reading to understand like what the person is actually saying. And so we had a lot of people misinterpreting us as saying, this is a thing that people should do right now.
Or even that it's cool. Like, you didn't even say it was cool. You just said, this is cyberpunk. And people were like, but someone bought 100 phones. And it's like, well, no, they didn't. Also, collective action. Also, any number of other things. People got very hung up on what they thought you said, which is Twitter. Like,
yeah, it's a platform that does not lend itself to that sort of like... It doesn't lend itself to paying attention and trying to understand the person who's posted a thing.
Right.
And it's fine. Like, I could write an essay on like, well, here's what I meant when I retweeted this, but like it's a throwaway thing. Right. And so we're learning and relearning as part of this. Like, oh, here's the perspective to have when you're living in this sort of public space. And it's pretty frustrating, but it's also like really cool that cool people were retweeting and like,
oh my god,
adding their own stuff.
When Swift on security. So okay, so here's how the day went. I had brunch with a friend. Greg tweets this at like 11 a.m. Greg also does a Future Proof Plays that afternoon starting at 2. So I'm seeing lots of likes coming in and retweets during the stream, and I'm like, hey Greg, a thing you did is popping off a little bit. And then by the time the stream is over, it has blown up, and like some of our favorite left tubers have retweeted it, Buckwall, without commentary, but like what? But that is how it spread. It was very strange to see people who do not know that we exist.
But as the result of that, we got a bunch of more followers on Twitter. Yep. So if you're someone who's learned about us thanks to that tweet, cool.
Yeah, welcome.
And so we've chosen to take care of ourselves, and we muted that thread probably a little too late, but maybe 24 hours after it posted originally.
No one was hateful.
Few people were hateful. And like in the end, like that's, you know, that was a weekend we had. Yeah. And hopefully it will help kind of make the work we do sustainable and make sort of our relationship with folks in our broader community of colleagues and friends and fans and so on, make that community grow and be healthy.
Yeah. And what I'm this is a bit of a deviation, but the places where I'm finding joy on Twitter, which, you know, despite my general opinion on the company and all that, is in finding cool works that people are doing and helping to amplify that. Yeah. So, like, I'm finding games to add to our Future Proof Plays list of potential games. Just, like, finding cool art and cool articles and just, like, stuff that's very much in line with the kind of studio we want to be and the kinds of things we want to highlight. And I find that a lot more enriching than the 2 hours of fame from a viral tweet. That was a fascinating experience. And, you know, I don't know. Twitter's not so bad. I'll cap it off with that.
And if we've mentioned Future Proof Plays a few times in passing, if you're not aware, we do every couple weeks, we do streams on Twitch where we play a short indie game that sort of usually meshes with our values as a company, and like do Q&A. Like, you can ask us whatever you want if you're in chat. It's usually pretty chill. We don't usually get a whole lot of people in there, but you're welcome to join us. If our schedule is at futureproofgames.com/streams, and I need to pick my next game. I'm still trying to decide what I want to do because I'm up next.
Excellent.
But we've got some Exploit Zero Day stuff coming up.
We do. So we've talked about how we've kind of pipeline the jobs that are in Headless Swarm, where we want to make sure we have basically 2 jobs ready before we release the first of those 2. So we always have one kind of in the tank. And we recently finished what is the 7th main job of Exploit Zero Day. So we're releasing job 6.
Yeah, the 7th main job of Headless Swarm, which is the season of paid story.
Right. And so be releasing job 6, which is, if memory serves us correctly, called Remote Terminal.
Yeah. The pun, something like that.
Yeah. I mostly remember the name of the next job because I came up with it, and it's using one of my favorite jokes ever. Thanks, Borderlands.
But yeah, this is a story about this amoral hacker group called Onyx Horde is threatening an airport by kind of buzzing it with drones. They're not doing anything, but they've stolen some consumer drones. They're just sort of staying in its airspace. And of course, people are worried about terrorism and whatever. And this is probably technically terrorism.
Yeah.
But like, it's not like there's a bomb at the airport.
Right.
And so Onyx Horde is there. Samsara Digital, the evil corporation, is there, and you're sort of trying to figure out how to handle and resolve this situation.
Yeah. And so this is pretty down deep in the plot of Headless Swarm.
Yeah.
So at this point, you've played 5 chunks of jobs that have puzzles associated with them, etc. You have probably aggravated one or both of either Onyx Horde or Samsara Digital, and we'll get plenty more opportunities to do so. So it's really exciting to kind of have another one coming out.
Yeah, and this one's going to be a little interesting because in the final release, if someone starts playing Headless Swarm once everything is out, they'll get this in parallel with Burn, 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 which we call Job 5. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a fun little structure, and it'll rejoin with the next job that we've just finished.
Yeah, and so kind of back on the community front, we've got sort of one more major area that we want to figure out as far as how to reach and connect with our community, y'all, the listeners and players of our games, and that is figuring out what we want to do with YouTube.
Yeah, we've got a relatively small but gradually growing group of people who follow us on YouTube, probably because they stumble across us, and most of what we've got up there is just archives of future-proof plays. Mm-hmm. But that's a place where we'd like to be able to share stuff. And so you might be listening to this on YouTube. We've chatted about maybe having this episode try and go up. That might not happen. We'll take a look at possibilities, but if you're listening on YouTube, hi.
Subscribe.
Yeah, we also...
I'm not going to say the other part that goes with subscribe and like.
Yeah, that's fine. But we'd also like to have it be a place where we can sort of communicate in the native language of YouTube, the sort of actually work with the platform. Mm-hmm. A video game that we've been playing lately.
Too much of.
And a game company that I've admired for a long time is Coffee Stain Studios with Satisfactory. And their dev videos on YouTube are kind of the ones I always think of as someone who's doing a great job at communicating on YouTube as a game company. If you haven't seen their YouTube updates, totally check them out. They're funny and simple. But we're thinking of a very low key approach that's similar to what they're doing and what various other devs are doing, where we might put out maybe monthly, I'm not sure, short videos that are just one of us, probably me, talking at a camera and being like, hey, here's what's up. Basically the same sort of stuff we talk about on the podcast, a little news oriented, maybe show some clips if we've got them. Mm-hmm. And just have it be a place where, like, you know, if you don't want to listen to a podcast, if you want to just watch a quick video, cool, you can. So we'll do that. We'll see if anyone picks up on it. Maybe we'll stop if they don't.
And we might replace the podcast with that. We did not get a lot of feedback that suggested people listen to the podcast, or that is how they either get their indie news or get their news about us. So it may be that, you know, this may be near the end of our podcast run.
Yeah, we'll see. And it might be that when we put podcast stuff up and vlog stuff up, we find that people do want podcasts if they get them on YouTube and so on and so forth. We're not collecting real stats on podcast downloads, so we don't have that much insight into whether there's, you know. Actually, I'll say this: you there with your podcast player?
Wait, hold on.
Yes, I'm talking to you directly. If you are listening to this podcast and you like it, if you want it to continue happening, drop us a line. Comment on our blog, or send us an email at info@futureproofgames.com, or tweet at us. And basically, like, if we get 1 or 2 messages from people we don't know saying they want us to keep the podcast, we'll almost certainly keep the podcast. We might keep it anyway. But if you're like, oh, hey, wait, I definitely want this to happen, just let us know, like, I listened to it, and that'll be an important data point.
Right.
But yeah, we'll see. We're playing it by ear and just experimenting a little bit.
Yeah, and we've got, you know, there's equipment questions and all sorts of, like, logistics to figure out in terms of, do we have good enough cameras and all that. So
yeah, but we'll figure out vlogging stuff, or, you know, YouTube video updates or whatever. But yeah, and if you have, even though we finished the survey that we ran end of last year, if you have feedback on how you want to hear from us, or sort of news that you want that we're not providing, let us know. We always welcome ideas. There might be stuff we can't do just because it's impractical, but let us know if you've got requests or suggestions on that front.
You can find all of our stuff over at futureproofgames.com. We're over on Twitter at playfutureproof. Hit us up with any questions or comments using any of the parts of the internet that make it possible to communicate with us. Our theme music is Juparo by Broke for Free, which is available under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license.